We had someone ask, Julie, I believe it was. The question was, does the three principles support domestic abuse by telling victims it's just a thought, right? Especially psychological abuse. Does the three principles support domestic abuse and psychological abuse by explaining people or explaining to a victim, look, this is just a thought? Before I answer that, I want to step back, and there was this quote that I saw a Native American speaker long time ago. I actually made a video about it, I think in 2016. If you go back to my YouTube channel, you'll see it. And it's this gentleman that was on stage, and he was a Native American guy. And he said, you know, the funny thing about Europeans, white Americans, is when if they ever got if we had a bow and arrow and we hit them with an arrow that was poisonous, most Europeans, Americans, would look at their arm and say, why would someone hit me with that poison arrow? What did I do? Did I say something to that person? Maybe I deserved it. Maybe I didn't deserve it. Who am I to even judge why I got shot with this poison arrow? While that's happening, the Native American says, see, it's funny because when we get shot with a poison arrow, we just take it and remove it right away, because we know by the time we ask all these questions, the poison is already going inside of us. In the same respect, when we say it's just a thought, it's not just a thought. Our experience, all of it is thought. It's actually very important. It's not just a thought. This idea that it's just a thought. I'll tell you in what context we use that in. But in this particular thing, from my experience working at the recovery center, dealing with people that have dealt with domestic abuse, it's not just a thought when they're in an abusive relationship. In the same respect that when that poison hits somebody and they're looking at that poison, whether that's a person that's in their life, whether they're being psychologically abused, they're being poisoned. And they start asking themselves in thought, well, maybe I deserve this. Or what if there's something that I did? What if it's my low self-esteem? And all this stuff, this what ifs they're doing in thought that they start to believe, that removes them from their clarity, which contaminates their thinking and doesn't allow people to see clearly. What part of the principles that people need to see, forget about the just a thought thing, is that when we see where our experience is coming from, we don't jump into labeling ourselves and saying, well, I deserved it because I was a bad son. I deserved it because I was a bad wife. I deserved it because all this thinking we start doing that doesn't allow us to actually leave a situation. Whereas when we have clarity and we don't believe every thought that's detrimental to us, we have opportunities to get out of it. See, when people come to my recovery center and they actually see that they're whole, that there's something beyond their personal thinking that tells them that they're no good, they deserve it, you know, give him another chance or whatever it is, because that's not just a thought at that point. That's the poison that hit you with the arrow. Just like if someone's saying, are you saying it's just a poison arrow? Well, no, if that poison arrow is sitting in your arm long enough, it will kill you. If that kind of thought that ruminates inside of you, that doesn't allow you to see other opportunities, then it's not just a thought anymore. It's taken form to the point that it has now shackled you. No one has ever said it's just a thought in that context. Now, in a flip side, it's still made of thought. It's still just a thought, I guess you could say, right? It's still just a thought. Just like this is just water, but if I drown myself, if I go in a swimming pool and put my head down for 3 minutes, that just water can drown me. So when we use the word just in front of something, we diminish what it actually, the value of it, right? If someone who's a surfer would know the respect they have for the waves, right? In the same way that I have respect for water too, and I know that this can give me life, and it also can make me die if I have too much of it, thought works the same way. It creates life, but it can also shackle it if we have too much of it, if we consume ourselves with it. So this concept of just a thought is a misnomer, it's a misunderstanding. In the deeper context, if you listen to Sid Banks and some of the other practitioners, there's a profound respect for what thought can do. And there's also a deep understanding that when you're stuck in it and you move on to a new one, you're still good as new. It's oxymoronic. It's a spiritual essence, and it can turn into something that can make your body have heart palpitations and make your hands sweat, but it's still made out of nothing. It's fluid, it's contextual, right? And so when we start to give it a form and say just it's not, it's everything and it's nothing, it's metaphors. Forget that part of it. What someone that's in a domestic abuse situation needs to know is beyond thought, personal thinking that says, I need to stay in this relationship, or whatever thought that's not useful for their predicament does not need to be listened to. That if they even, and let's say they did listen to it. See, a lot of times they say, oh, I should have left last week and now look what happened. And now they consume themselves from last week's poison, last week's dart. But what we share in the recovery centers in my community is, it's okay that you messed up. You have an opportunity for fresh thought right now again. Oh, you messed up again? Well, let's do it again then. Let's start with the new availability of thought you have right now again. Oh, you did that one wrong too? You thought you were insecure again? Well, let's start again and see what else you see. Thought in that respect is profound. But it's still just thought in that respect. It is still just thought. So even the idea of it's just a thought is also just a thought, right? But it has no prescriptive implications. If I am down in the dumps and I've been depressed, which I have been, I had suicide ideation, it was extremely profound for me to know that it's just a thought. In that context, because the experience is malleable. So in that context, it was extremely valuable. Now, if you're in a domestic abuse, you're in a, as you said, does it support domestic abuse by telling victims it's just a thought? Well, if it doesn't serve them, where they're thinking it's just a thought and you're getting beat up psychologically, well, why would I say that in that particular context? If someone is drowning in water, would I tell them it's just water? Because look, I'm drinking, I need water for life. And so if I put your head down underwater for 5 minutes, you should be fine because it's just water. Well, in that context, it wouldn't make sense. So why would I possibly say that to somebody? But if they're parched for water, I would absolutely say, yes, look, drink this. It's just water. You'll be okay. This will help you. Thought gives rise for me. I'm about to go to my restaurant. Because of thought, when I first opened up my restaurant, it was an empty shell. But with thought, I said, in that corner, I'm going to make a kitchen. In that corner, this is where the customers will come in. In this corner, I'm going to put a point of sale system so I can get money from people. So thought in that sense was very creative. It was useful. But then 10 minutes later, I would be like, oh shit, what if this business doesn't work? What if I ruin everything? What if I lose all my family's money? Well, that thought, I could say, I don't have to worry about those ones. Those are just thought. In that context. Do you see where I'm getting at? So, It's useful to be able to discern which direction you're going to. That's why Sid always pointed to the fact of saying, follow the good feelings. Follow the thoughts that correlate to a better experience, that make more sense. Right? You can call it whatever you want. If you think it's the most important thing in the world, your world will look from that vantage point. If you think it's just thought, then you're going to see the world from that vantage point. But that's just 2 out of the infinite ways you can see thought. 2 out of the infinite ways you could see thought. So why would anyone tell a victim it's just a thought, when that's just one of the ways out of a billion ways to see it? The thing that's more important is not to tell someone it's just or it's not just. It's that thought is malleable, and it can, in any moment, shackle you, give you light, give you an escape, or have you be stuck somewhere at any moment. And the good news is it can change in any moment again, right? And that's why, like, I always love the Alan Watts quote, you're not obligated to be the person you were 5 minutes ago. I think that's absolutely brilliant, but I would take it a step deeper and say, from a 3 principles context, you're not obligated to be the person you were 1 thought ago. See, that's more liberating for me to know that. That's why if I call myself someone that was domestically abused, in 1 split moment, I can say I'm better and bigger than this moment that I'm in, stuck with this particular abusive relationship. I'm going to find a way out. That's just thought as well, but it is a valuable thought in that moment. I have the expansive energy from within to find some clarity, to go find shelter, to find solace from this place and help my kids. That's an incredible thought, but it's still just a thought, yes, but it's an incredible one. Right? So there is, from my many years, I've yet to find someone that I've ever, in my 5 years at the recovery center, I make it very clear that, when we start to wordify the principles, we get in trouble. That's the problem. That's the heart of what we're saying. When someone wordifies and says, well, this practitioner said it's this. Well, that's what the guy or girl says. That doesn't mean that's what the principles are. The principles are just talking about an energy that we all contain and how we see experience. That's all. And even that's not enough, because I'm now wordifying it myself, right? That has to be a felt experience. But when we start to say, well, this person said this about the principles, that person says it's not this, well, that's not what it is. And in the same respect with what I'm saying, it may not even be what I'm saying. But if you get a felt experience of, ooh, I see this in my felt experience to be of value, use it. And if it's of no value, then make what I'm saying just a thought. If it's of extreme value, then the power of thought is absolutely courageous and amazing and fucking fantastical. And if it's not, then it's just a thought. And that's when I think that maybe it was not stated correctly, maybe it wasn't communicated properly. But boy, would I never say to someone who's been in an abusive relationship, it's just a thought. Because if it was just a thought, right? Like if I have suicidal ideation, in that moment, it is as real as it can get. But there's going to be a point in my life where I can look back and hopefully I can see that when I was in that suicidal ideation, I can see it as just a thought. Right? That doesn't negate my experience. That doesn't negate someone that's been victimized by abuse of what they're going through. It just gives them access to know that if they stuck in a relationship because they thought they were someone that they're not, that they don't have to think that anymore. They don't have to think that anymore. And they can get out. They can leave. They can shelter. They can do whatever they need to do. I hope that expanded on my perspective. Again, this is my perspective, and this is a good news about our community and our group, is if you don't like a practitioner, the way that they word the principles, then don't listen to them, right? If you don't like the way that I do it, don't listen to me, because I'm saying it from my felt experience, and the only way I could do it is by wordifying it. And you know what? I'm not the best at wordifying it either. I try my best. And for some reason, or for some people, my wordifying them cuts to the core of it and goes into their heart. For other people, they think I'm a jackass, right? For some people, Michael Neal, they love Michael Neal. For other people, they're like, he doesn't do it for me. Jamie Smart, Johnny Bowden, right? I see Johnny, he writes some incredible pieces, but I see some people that say, your stuff's shit. What's your deal? I personally love it. His stuff comes to my heart. Now, does that mean you should go listen to Johnny? Well, maybe or maybe not. But at the end of the day, you will get a felt experience. So if you've been victimized, here's the beauty of it. If you've been victimized by abuse and someone tells you something that doesn't feel correct, then make that person, whatever they said, just a thought in that context, and go find someone that brings your thought closer to you, brings your consciousness closer to you, brings mind back to you, and your problem solved. Then you're back to your essence, back to your core, whatever the hell we say in these, in our principal terminologies. And that's what I got. And thank you for listening. And again, I hope this worked. I was trying to come up with whatever I could in this moment. I'm speaking longer than I need to, but Julie, if you watch this, tell me your thoughts on this. I can always expand on it, but I hope that made some sort of sense for you, and I hope that clarified practitioners saying it's just a thought. Okay, love you guys all. I'll talk to you guys soon, and see you on the flip.